Welcome friends, in this video we're going to learn how to write more robust queries and store procedures by using if-else. So as in basically all programming languages, if-else is used to make decisions. That's it. So let's take a look at an application of this in the context of tables. First stage, I'm going to use AdventureWorks, keep that in mind. I already have the database context set. I'm going to type this. I'm going to type create procedure, and then I'm going to call this procedure set weight. And inside the database, we have a table, remember, called product. So here's the big logic that we're going to implement. Take a look. Product weights can be set, but not to a negative value. So maybe you're selling a digital product. I'm not sure what kind of product you're selling. So imagine if it's a digital product, okay? Then perhaps a weight of 0 makes sense, okay? But if it's usually some kind of physical product, right, should have some weight. So it should have a weight of some kind. So obviously, what I'm about to show you depends to some extent on how you think of your product. Keep that in mind. All right, so create procedure set weight. And this time I'm going to add two parameters. And within the body of it, we'll use if to make a decision. Take a look. I'm going to type add product ID. Again, because inside that table called product, we have a field named product ID. I'm declaring a parameter of that type also. And because I know the table, or you can check it out yourself, I'm going to type int. That's the data type of that column. So parameter, data type. And this time I'm going to do one more. You can list several, not just one always. I'll type weight. And because I know the table, I'm going to type decimal as the data type. If you want to know more about the table, you can type this. You can type as follows. You can type sp underscore columns like that, and then specify the name of the table whose columns you want to learn about. So between single quotes, type, for example, product, and then the parentheses. And as you can imagine, if you try to run this, let's see what happens. So select that and run it, execute. And this will give you information about the table, so you don't have to go into the Object Explorer, right-click, and then look at the designer and see what the data types are, or look at the columns in the Object Explorer. You can just run this. It's reliable. I like it. Okay? And notice that inside this product, we have column names here. And one of them, as you can see, is weight, and its type is decimal. That's why I'm making this parameter, and its also type is decimal. Now, so what we're going to do essentially is this. Let me outline the steps a little bit up above. Set the weight of a product with a particular ID. So ID will be entered, the weight will be entered, and then I will type this as, and now we have to check. We have to make sure that the weight we are setting is greater than or equal to 0. Again, now this step depends on what kind of products you're imagining selling, okay? Physical products should be very likely greater than 0 strictly. So I'm going to say if, and then at, and I will say weight greater than or equal to 0. So perhaps in our case, you're imagining physical or maybe digital product. So you might have a 0. But if you're thinking about only physical products, maybe just greater than 0. You shouldn't very likely be able to set that a physical product has a weight of 0 pounds or something like that. It doesn't exist. So you're going to check here, you're going to type if, and then at weight is greater than 0. You're checking that condition. So this helps to basically, step 6 here, checks to ensure input is sensible. After that, you can update the table, as an example, by typing as follows. I'm going to say update production.product. So remember, name of schema, table name. And then after that, you're going to type set the weight equal to whatever value has been passed into the body of the stored procedure through the parameters. So at and then weight, like that. And remember that when you do this, the weight here is the name of the column in the table. The at weight is the name of the parameter. And you got to do that to the specific product ID. So that is why you also now need where, and then product ID equals, and then again at product ID. So remember that here, product ID is the column in the table, the at product ID is the parameter. The same as above, weight is in the table, at weight is the name of the parameter, essentially. And this is good now, okay? Notice this is underlined red and it says there, must be the only statement in the batch. So remember, we fixed that. I'm sure you know by now. Pause the video if you want to guess. But I'll just keep going. I'm sure you know by now. Go, that's it. Separate into batches. Submit this batch individually. Submit the create procedure batch individually. All right, let's do that. So highlight all of this. And if this already exists, because I created it previously when I was experimenting, for example, I'll just drop it if I have to. So hit execute. And as you can see, it already exists. So you can drop it. The other thing that you can do instead of writing create is simply type alter. That's it. It already exists, right? That's what the message says. So just type alter this time. That's all. And try it with the alter to change it. Let's see. Hit execute. And it says command completed successfully. Perfect. And one more thing now. So imagine if the weight input is greater than 0, then you can set the weight on the product. That's sensible. But if that is not the case, we will say else, and then we can display some relevant message. You can do that by typing print, and that after print, you put some text and it shows it to you in the output. So I'm going to put here the following. Weight must exceed 0. Okay, so let's imagine that in our particular case, to be more specific, as a comment here, I'm going to type this here, okay? Imagine we're storing information on physical products like that, so it makes sense. And if you get something underlined red and it says invalid object name, usually if you do Control-Shift-R, it will refresh everything and it's going to disappear. See that? So Control-Shift-R when it says invalid object name or something like that. So refresh it and it goes away. So far this is good. I'm going to add one more bit here. Next comment 7. I'm going to type runs when user tries calling proc, short for procedure, with a value like, for example, minus 20. It doesn't make sense to say something has a weight of negative 20 pounds, meaningless. So simply writing if at weight is greater than 0 helps to ensure that the values in our table are sound physically. But if this condition, this is a logical condition, the weight greater than 0 is a logical condition, a true or false kind of condition. If that condition fails, then all of this code I've highlighted in the block does not run. Instead, the code in the else runs. Okay, so now it's called this procedure. We've got it going. I'm going to type here, call the procedure, so set weight. And in this particular example now, we have to know what an existing ID might be. So I'm going to do that by taking a look inside the table. I'm going to say select star from production dot product. And at this stage, you may want to take that table and just first copy it out using N2. Just copy it, save it somewhere so you have that information before you start modifying it. Remember, we learned about N2. You can use that to copy out records. All right, let me take a look here. I want to take a look at some existing product IDs so we actually find something. So let's see, product ID 1, 2, 3. All right, imagine the headset ball bearings. Let's see, right now, if you scroll to the right, Didn't have anything set in the weight. It's just null. All right, we can change that. Let's take a look. So null, remember, means missing. It doesn't mean zero. Big difference between the two. Okay, remember that. So I'm going to say select star from production.product. I'm going to now call the procedure set weight. I'm going to specify the product ID. So I'm going to say, for example, here, product ID equals 4. And then I need to specify the value to be passed into the second parameter. So imagine I just try it this way. I'm going to say at, and then I will say, for example, weight equals 10. Whatever it is, that's not important. It's a number like 10. All right, let me delete this line. So remember, we are calling the procedure passing into parameter values this time. All right, and as before, of course, it says here incorrect syntax near weight. So stick in a go, and the underlining will go away in a second. Except the second thing is underlined now. It says incorrect syntax near at weight. So that usually means separate them with a comma like this. Give that a shot first, and it goes away. See? So let me be very clear now. Remove the go for a second, and the set weight gets underlined red. So you replace that with a go, and it goes away. But if you miss the comma between the parameter names, it again gets underlined red for a different reason. So you put the comma back in. All right, let's give this a go. So give that a shot over here. Hit execute. And it says one row affected. And that's all you're going to see here. You would need to write additional queries, obviously, to now display the result of that operation. I'll leave that to you as I check. One thing that I do want to show you, though, is imagine on product ID 4, you try to stick in minus 10 as the weight, which remember physically means nothing, not possible. And now before I do run it with a value of negative 10, remember I added the else. So you want to make sure that the procedure takes, okay? Highlight it and just alter it one more time. So hit execute one more time. Make sure it saves the updated version with the else, and then run it with a negative 10 for the value of the weight parameter. Execute that. Take a look at the output, and it says weight must exceed 0, and that is a sensible output in this case. There you go. So remember, after you make any change, alter the procedure to update it so that the correct version is saved in Object Explorer on the left side. And now things are working as expected. All right, friends, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.